Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's edition of Blockchain and Crypto, along with early stage venture and seed investments. Today, we're going to be talking about everything that's happening in the early stage venture capital space, along with seed investments. Last year, we had a ton of activity in the space, saw over $620 billion put into venture capital throughout many different industries and categories of around the world as well. We brought some investors together today to talk about what this all means to you and where things are going here in the beginning of 2022. Before we get started, big thank you to the LaToken team and to Hasmic for making today's episode possible. That being said, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and jump into introductions. Andy, welcome to the show. A little intro and background for everybody, please.
Yeah, great to meet you. Thanks for having me. My name's Andy Lowe, founder of ADAP. We invest and support early stage social entrepreneurs that are having an impact on extreme poverty internationally. We invest early and we try and build out the companies and hopefully lead them to have exits. We currently have just closed our final round for our Fund 2, which has 12 businesses in. That's part of our 23 businesses in total. And we're looking to deploy capital in another 8 businesses in the upcoming months. So thanks for having me. Looking forward to a great discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you as well, Raghu.
Hi, Kyle. Nice to be back and nice to see some familiar faces. I'm Raghu Rao from Princeton, New Jersey. I'm an angel investor as well as institutional investor through the Ascendo Emerging Asia Fund. And I'm also a strategic advisor. Look forward to the discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you, Raghu. Alpesh, welcome back as well.
Hi. Hello. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm Alpesh Doshi. I've been in building ventures for the last 20 plus years in tech and blockchain. And yeah, hello.
Awesome. And Gary, last but not least, a little intro and background for you.
Yeah, great to be here. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've been involved in 17 startups and 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company. I'm the CEO, president, co-founder of GSD Venture Studios. We're a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in Palo Alto, California. And again, it's great to see some familiar and smiling faces. Thanks, Scott.
That it is. So, gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about the early stage venture capital space. As I mentioned in the opening today, we saw over $620 billion put to work from a venture capital perspective in 2021. Some of that went into early stage, some went into late stage, some went in between. But what are we looking at here going forward in 2022 in your predictions? As we're just kicking off the year, we already have a ton of fundraising events that have happened here in the first 2 weeks of the year. But where do you think we go from here? Andy?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting year, especially kind of in the sector that we're working in, being international, where we're still seeing lots of the consequences of COVID. I think those that are set up to have managed the COVID storm over the last year will do much better over the next 6 months. Being able to work things still virtually, international travel still challenging. I just spoke to an entrepreneur this morning who has had to leave his wife behind because she tested positive and he managed to have his negative test for the first time in 2 weeks. So there's all sorts of challenges that I think are still going to be there for COVID, but with that comes great opportunities. And we're seeing some great businesses that are back on the fundraising circuit. We're seeing some great opportunities for real growth, and those that have been able to nimbly adjust to the challenges over the last couple of years are going to be the winners. So we see great opportunities, and we see it being honest and reflective of kind of the current circumstances.
And Andy, in terms of those great opportunities and areas of excitement that you see maybe thriving this year, what are some of those categories or what some of those industries that you're seeing right now?
Yeah, so for us, we're investing across different sectors. That's intentional. We're trying to be inclusive. It's somewhat ironic that I'm on a panel with all men. We have a very inclusive approach to our portfolio. 91% of our founders are people of color, 70% of them are women. And so we're seeing those that are kind of off the beaten track, that are off the radar, as being the greatest opportunities. And those that do have, obviously, the core business needs, but also having an impact on extreme poverty are the ones that are going to be growing for us most over the next year. So we're investing across sectors. We've got a number in education. We've got a lot in agriculture. And we've obviously seen a number that are growing in health with the current challenges.
And speaking of health, Raghu, I want to come to you next. Areas of interest you're seeing around 2022, but also between health and security. Where are you seeing some of the opportunity looking forward in the year ahead?
I think the at least for the first 2 quarters, I think the current trend will continue in terms of the volume and size of investments, if anything, increase. And I see healthcare, obviously the pandemic, the morphing into different variants is still going forward. Still, I think the main sector, while the other things are going to continue. Cybersecurity, as you know, is an existential problem, which is become a worldwide issue for everything, the small, mid-sized, large businesses, governments, everybody. So there's a huge amount. As you know, cybersecurity was one of the top sectors last year, will continue to be. I think the diagnostic area in healthcare is number one, and then I guess there's other areas like obviously therapeutics for cancer, and some of Alzheimer's has got a lot of interest right now. Especially Bill Gates has a $100 million venture fund just for Alzheimer's. So these are some sectors where I see movement, and also geographically, I personally know about India and the UAE. I just got back from the UAE. I think both are very strong right now. The valuations are pretty high as well, but a lot of activity and a lot of money pouring in.
Yeah, so money aside, Raghu, I want to come back to India and the UAE. What industries are you seeing really start to take off? I know there's been a lot of activity, more than ever in India over 2021. We saw a lot of great companies coming from the region and also just surrounding it as well. So what are you particularly seeing, or what did you see on your recent trips in both there and in UAE?
Fintech, health tech are pretty hot. I think fintech is where I think there's a lot of action happening. From just e-commerce retail now, fintech includes deep tech applications in fintech, AI, ML type of applications. Other area is content services, including like localization of things like Alexa type, voice AI, those type of applications. I see a lot happening. Healthcare, fitness, and healthcare as well in terms of wellness.
All right. Alpesh, same question to you. Looking forward to the year in front of us. What is getting you excited?
I mean, the sectors that I'm seeing, all the tech sectors are growing. I mean, that's the primary theme for me that I see, which is still continuing over many years, is, which is what Gary, I'm sure, knows, is data and AI and digital businesses from traditional sectors and migrating and transforming. That's just the underlying theme I'm seeing in every sector. And one of the key areas that I'm seeing massive growth in, on the basis of things like COP26 and the sort of the elevation of net zero after COP26, is in sustainability. Massive growth in terms of number of companies being funded across the whole sector, across the whole category, whether it's sustainable farming, or it's tech and data, or it's electricity and energy. I'm seeing growth in all of those areas. The underlying infrastructure play, so because I'm in tech, I see loads of new data companies. So just as an example, observability is an area which is growing, and there are about 2 or 3. There are probably a couple of reasonably sized, well-funded ventures in the last year that have got some more funding. But again, it's still an early area, and that's huge growth opportunity as well. So that, and there's more, but that's sort of the areas that I know that I'm involved in.
Gary, coming down to you, following the same theme here, what are you looking towards for 2022? And as Alpesh mentioned, data is definitely a big area. Oh, Gary, it looks like we might have you on mute there. A little technical difficulty on our side.
So Kyle, there's some, this whole idea of the metaverse and how we transition from the real world to this hybrid world with MR and XR. Yesterday, my partner David sent me a note that Morpheus had just found a poem and wrote a movie and narrated a movie about the poem. So we're going to see AI to be able to deal with this 49 zettabytes of data that we have on the planet. We're going to see more and more of a need, because of infobesity, of technologies that can not only identify but help us to make decisions and in the very near future make decisions for us because we are inundated across multiple vertical markets. No matter where we are, we're inundated with information. So our goal is to be able to level the playing field, democratize the opportunity so we can all participate, and at the same time, impact global climate change. I was just reading recently that within the next 20 years, the average temperatures go up 1.5 degrees centigrade, which is the don't turn back level where we can't really spin it backwards. We got to do something about it. Elon Musk said recently that it's not if we're going to run out of fossil fuels, it's when. We got to plan for our children's future and our children's children's future by looking at alternative energy sources. And we got to do it now. This is no longer just think about it. Climate change, where the average temperatures goes, as I said, 1.5 in 20 years, but could be 7 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of this century. And at the same time, population going from 8.1 billion to 13. We need to figure out how to be much more efficient with farming. We need to look at things like plant-based protein, because by 2050, we're going to have to double the food supply. We got to look at those things now. So what I see happening, I see metaverse companies, I see machine learning and deep learning, I see blockchain, I see all kinds of companies that can tokenize. We're working on one of our projects is called Cosmic, where we're tokenizing goodness and compassion through the metaverse. We need to figure out how to live together better and how to be able to help us to cure and mend our planet. I'm looking for those kind of technologies.
And what about quantum? Gary, we talked a lot about quantum.
Yeah, absolutely. How did I forget quantum, Kyle? What's wrong with me today? I got to slap myself in the face.
It's all right. It's the beginning of the year.
Because
what's going to happen with quantum? What's going to happen with quantum for the next year?
So this morning I was on with a group out of Germany on the quantum side. We're going to see quantum, as was done during the pandemic, to be able to help with AI and drug discovery. So quantum computers were used. We're going to see more wider applications going to be coming out of the universities. We're going to see richer investments in that area, and we're going to start to really define an entire market. Again, it's because of the data that's around us. We need to make sense of it. And thinking about a quantum computer being 158 million times faster than the fastest supercomputer, able to do what take a supercomputer 10,000 years and 200 seconds, those kind of technologies we're going to need to really chart our course from the planet Earth on our perspective and to the stars and beyond.
Gary, can I ask a question?
Yes.
On that? What use cases are you seeing? What applications are you seeing?
Well, I mean, so during the pandemic, so I happened to be on one of the panels that was put together. Why they asked me, a country boy, I have no idea. But I got a call and I thought, well, okay, I'll get on it. This was at the beginning. They used AI and drug discovery for the vaccine. So some of the pharmaceutical companies used one of the three-letter companies' systems to be able to help with drug discovery. So we're going to see more and more of that, because now that was really the threshold. We went from wet benches to really AI modeling. We're going to see a lot more than that. We're going to, we're so inundated. Again, we're at 49 zettabytes, but I've just looked at my numbers. That number's actually increased another 68%. So it's not 49 zettabytes anymore. We got to deal with the data, and we got to make some decisions that make our lives better. Listen, I'll tell you, Alpesh, it's, what I'm hearing, I'm down in Palm Beach right now, and a lot of the ultra high net worth individuals are here. And I'm hearing this every day, that they're concerned for their, it's one thing about having multi-generational wealth. There's another thing about having in 250 or 300 years, we may be extinct. And people, we think about it. When I grew up as a kid, I never thought we would say that it would be billions of years. But the situation is, listen, the food chain, the Gulf Stream is going to stop. And it's going to stop one day, Alpesh. And when it stops, right in the UK, it snows. I remember Dr. Crick told me, when it starts to snow in the UK, you're going to understand that the Gulf Stream's slowing down. When it stops, the food chain stops, right? So using quantum computers to understand the data to help us make better decisions, right decisions. Why in the world we have plastic floating in the ocean that's the size of the state of Rhode Island? It's disgusting. It's heating up the oceans because a lot of it's black and it's being absorbed. Why do we do this to our planet? It's crazy. And, we have one planet. Listen, if all of us just flew to Mars right now, nothing good would happen. Well, if we keep treating our planet the way we do now, nothing good's going to happen.
I definitely on the sustainability front, that's one of the areas that I'm working in. It's massive. I mean, it's absolutely huge. And yeah, the incentives are there. I think that's the difference. Incentives are there.
It's not about just giving. I had this conversation with these exceedingly wealthy folks from Germany this morning. It's not about just giving the money out in philanthropy. It's about creating a damn business that's sustainable so people can change their lives. I was on a panel at the UN. We talked about Boko Haram, ISIS. We talked about all these nefarious groups are out there. But the root of the problem is create jobs that can feed their families. If people can feed their families, they're less likely to do these nefarious things. Let's focus on that. Let's have a purpose. Let's invest with a purpose. Technology is a tool for peace.
And with that, I want to come back to Raghu for a second. Going down the path of cybersecurity, you touched on it, but I want to go a little bit further. I mean, cybersecurity is quite an important topic, more now than it ever has been. What are we expecting to see, or what should we be looking for as investors when it comes to cybersecurity and the areas of interest throughout, Raghu? Oh, Raghu, we might have a technical difficulty there. Looks like we might have you on mute.
Sorry, cybersecurity is, as you know, now been elevated to the board level. Pretty much public companies as well as private companies have to have a cybersecurity training at the board level. So the cybersecurity that we are seeing, the supply chain aspect, given what happened last year with the SolarWinds and the most recent Log4j issues, is it's so pervasive that I think a lot of it is coming out of the open source because people are able to plan and essentially franchise attack opportunities like ransomware. So I think there is a huge disruption that's happening in terms of how both in terms of sharing of data from a data privacy perspective, as well as storage and use of data, data in use, data at rest, as well as data in motion, and data at death, as we call it, or sunsetting of data, because there's a huge volume of the 50 zettabytes that Gary was talking about. A lot of that is actually not necessarily needed to be used. Some of it is used, but people don't know whether to delete it or not, because nobody knows, who owns the data in certain organizations based on, we do a great job onboarding people and projects and the data that comes along with it. But for offboarding is not quite so structured. So things kind of hang around. People don't know how sensitive some of the data is, who owns it, can it be deleted? So those kind of governance structures are, except in the very kind of data vendor type companies, it's not really there. And then there's retention issues from regulation for fintech, financial services companies, and healthcare companies. So it's cybersecurity, I would say, is one aspect that you talk about, but it's really about data privacy and data sharing. That is actually a core part of it, as opposed to just the system security, which, when you say cybersecurity, usually people think about system security. But I think more than system, it's also how you keep and share data.
Thank you very much, Raghu. And gentlemen, I want to come around for closing thoughts and where you can be found. But in your closing thoughts, I mean, looking ahead at the year, what should investors be thinking about when doing diligence or researching companies as things are continuing to speed up, and these industries are very new in some cases? Some are getting a lot of traction. Some are being reinvented from years past. So Andy, I would like to start with you. So in your closing thoughts today, any advice on diligence of these particular areas that you're investing in or otherwise? And then where can everyone find you online to continue the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, without stating the obvious, I think sustainability is the name of the game. I think that's just going to be a given for the way that we're looking at different businesses. It's finding ways to be listening effectively to different customer behavior and being able to predict customer behavior. I think there's often a big gap between the big technology plays and the actual realization of what is happening on the ground. And from our perspective, it's making sure that we're being inclusive to the billions at the base of the pyramid, or whatever you want to call it. There's an awful lot of customers that are out there that are not being adequately met with the different technology plays that are available. So I think COVID has exposed that and shown that to be the case. And I think finding those that are entrepreneurial and creative, innovative, and actually able to implement by working with the most marginalized is the name of the game for us. So we're on adapcapital.com is the website. We're going to be trying to be hosting more regularly. Sign up for the emails and the newsletters. We'll be sharing some more opinions. And as we build out the rest of the portfolio over the next few months, we'll be sharing more about the upcoming deals that are being inclusive and working with those that are most marginalized.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andy. Raghu, back to you. Closing thoughts. Where can you be found?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn at Raghu S. Rao. I look at companies that are, I would say, 3Ds: deep tech, de-risked, and decentralized. Because of the way things are, you don't want a honeypot and all the stuff in one place. So one of the areas that I see a lot of activity happening is nanotechnology, in terms of coming up with ways. There's probably you all have heard about rare earths, which are used in permanent magnets, and it's something that a few countries have kind of monopoly on that right now. It's used. These permanent magnets are used in pretty much everything: cell phones, wind turbines, and EVs, and so it's going to be a very important supply chain issue, and there are ways to address that, and there's a lot of opportunity there. Carbon sequestration is another one.
Wonderful. Thank you, Raghu. Alpesh.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it's still exciting. I think there's so much growth and so much opportunity in almost every single sector. We're still early in this transformation into the new digital world and data world. I think we can see the evidence in terms of from last year on the numbers you gave. So yeah, it's an exciting year still. And you can find me on Twitter. So at Alpesh Doshi on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just search for my name. Don't mix me up with the gynecologist, because there's a gynecologist on there. And reach out if you want to chat.
Wonderful. Gary, last but not least, closing thoughts. Where can you be found?
Yeah, like I said, intellectual capacity is evenly spread and opportunities aren't. We're looking for companies from any parts of the world that really have incredible artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and impact. We're in 43 countries today. Reach out to me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn or Twitter, and check out my shows, including VCTV, The Founders Report. Thanks, Kyle.
Wonderful. Thank you all very much for sharing your thoughts and insights today on where things are currently and where things are going around early stage and seed investments as well. To our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe on today's episode, and reach out to each and every one of our investors, myself included. We'd all love to hear from you. Remember to add context, where you heard us, where you met us, and what you would like to continue the conversation about. Until tomorrow, everyone have a wonderful day. Big thank you to the LaToken team and to Hasmic for making today's episode possible. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. We'll see you soon. Take care, everybody.